is Rita Crompton, host of Inventing in America, because America loves to invent and solve those problems that we see out there every day. So my guest for this episode is Tony, the inventor of the nose tea. He also goes by one funny writer, one funny speaker, one funny guy, and probably a whole bunch of other things that are funny. And so, Tony, thanks so much for being with us today. Tell everybody about you. Who are you?
Well, I was born and raised in Georgia, around the Atlanta area, and I have 4 amazing children. I've got 8 grandkids. I've been married to my wife. We got married when I was 20. We've been married close to 50 years, so we're looking forward to our 50th wedding anniversary coming up in a couple of years. And I've been in radio and television. I'm an author, singer, songwriter, inventor. I'm a minister. I teach Sunday school, and I'm just, I don't know. People look at me and say, "How do you do all that you do?" And I just said, "Well, if I ever stop, I'd probably drop dead because I just stay going all the time."
Yes, our idea of retirement is doing something different. And so, I get it. We laugh a lot of times. They say, "What is your exit strategy?" And I go, "Dying."
Yeah. That sounds like me.
Like we're always adding things that we're doing. And, I've written 3 novels, so I get the, what are you doing? It's like writing, I'd like to write a book one day. It's like, tell me how that goes for you. Because been there, done that. And it's not as easy as it might sound.
It's not, no.
It takes some real focus. And
I just released my 2nd book.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Inventing takes focus as well. It's like, it's the one thing to come up with a cool idea. It is totally different taking that cool idea to market. So tell us, what is the nose tea?
The nose tea is a device that stops nosebleeds very quickly, very rapidly. I actually timed it, and I made my nose bleed twice, and people asked me, "Ooh, how'd you do that?" I said, "You don't want to know," but I had to test it because I couldn't walk up to people when I was inventing it and just go, "Hey, see if this works." I couldn't do that. I had to try it on myself, and we were working on the prototypes, and then I had other people try it. We had to wait. It took a long time to design it so it would work. So that was kind of one of the things that prolonged the process. It wasn't something that we could use a few chemicals and poof, there it was. So, but it was an interesting journey, I can say, and getting the patent and going through all the processes to make sure that your product is going to be your product was an amazing journey as well. And I finally landed on a company up near you, up in the Pennsylvania area, that I felt comfortable with, because there's a lot of shysters out there that, want you to do business with them, but they're not going to give you anything relative. So I found a good company. It cost more money, but I feel like it was worth it because the nose tea is an amazing product. It stops nosebleeds in a matter of seconds, and it worked on me and it worked on others. And through the help of you guys and your connections, it's going to be helping a lot of other people as well.
Well, we kind of laugh. It's like, all right. And I'll ask people, it's like, well, what do you do when you get a nosebleed? Well, I have not talked to anybody that has ever said, I've never had one.
Yeah.
Or that they didn't know a child, a grandchild, a sister who had to deal with it. And it's like, well, you shove cotton up the nose, you shove, you pinch the nose, you put an ice pack on the nose, you do all these things because they all think that the blood is coming from the nose.
Right.
All right. So it's running down your nose, but that is not the cause. What is the science behind this, Tony?
Well, I about became an ear, nose, and throat doctor studying this, but I did find out that behind the nose is an area that doctors refer to as the littles area, and opposite of big, littles area. And there is an artery called the Palantine artery that runs through that area and to the nose. And nosebleeds are, if it's what's called an arterial nosebleed, the blood is coming from that artery. Well, the nose T goes under the lip right here. And when you curl your lip or put pressure up, it puts pressure on that Palantine artery that shuts the blood flow off to the nose. So it literally cuts it off like turning a water spigot. And you just hold it there and let the natural process of scabbing and healing take place, and it stops it. If you're on blood thinners, I actually am on blood thinners for me, and then I can take it out, and then you throw it away. People say, well, can you reuse it? Well, that question come up a lot, but I'm saying there's blood involved. You do not want to reuse anything. That's, with blood, that's like saying, well, can I reuse the Band-Aid? Well, yeah, you probably could, but you don't want to, you
Exactly.
know.
Well, and
Yeah, that just wouldn't be
they're
smart. But that's how the process works. It's not just absorbing blood until it naturally stops. It's not pinching and trying to, because there's really nothing here. All you're doing is stopping the blood and waiting on it to stop. But this way, it shuts the blood flow off like a spigot, and and then you can go on about your business.
I know my daughter was, the boys were jumping on the trampoline, and about the time she's yelling, no, no, don't jump that close. The older one,
Bam.
the younger one in the nosebleed. She runs in, she grabs a nose tee, and she goes, it's just so awesome
Yeah.
to not have to, you know, to not shove cotton up a boy's nose or a girl's nose, and let it just suck up the blood till the blood stops. Whereas you can actually do something that makes sense and stop the blood from flowing.
Well, the amazing thing is people are using tampons now to stop the blood. And I've seen big grown wrestlers sitting on the sideline at wrestling matches, and they got, and I'd be embarrassed, but thank God there's a nose tee and people don't have to do that any longer.
No kidding, no kidding. It's like, yuck, yuck, and yuck. Besides, these guys are, there's they're getting paid a lot of money, and now they're sitting there with a tampon up their nose. And the coach and the owner of the team is saying, well, what am I paying them for? And now it's a matter of, a couple minutes and they're back out on the field. They're happier and not nearly as embarrassed. If they've got a nosebleed, it's like, okay, that's kind of, it happens to everybody, and especially in those sporting events. But it's like, oh, I sat out for 20 minutes because I got a nosebleed. It's like, well, okay.
When people ask me how I discovered it, I've had nosebleeds since I was a kid. It was just something that I had, and I had to deal with it all my life. My youngest daughter dealt with nosebleeds quite a lot. I guess she inherited it from me. And then I was at church and was having one of my nosebleeds in the bathroom, and this elder gentleman, which I think I said this on one of your shows before. I don't know if it's an angel. I don't know where he came from. He just walked out of the stall, said, if you'll do this, your bleed will stop. Walked out the door, and I did it. And as soon as I did it and it stopped, I'm thinking, I've had these for decades. Why didn't I know this when I was a kid? And then it hit me. There's millions of people that need to know about this. So I began to get the patent, and I began to go through the process, and now it's on the market.
It's amazing because most people don't realize there are over 60 million nosebleeds a year just in this country. And it's like, everybody knows, about nosebleeds. You see them, whether it's on a kid's soccer game or, kids playing on a trampoline. Oh, that's, happens all the time. That is just, kind of that particular person's unfortunate physical experience that they're going to have nosebleeds on a regular basis. That happens more than people realize too. But in sporting events, these things need to be in all of the first responder equipment. They need to be in the nurse's office at the schools.
Right.
They need to be in every, when you go to scouting events, every summer camp,
And first aid kits. They need them in the first aid kits for sure.
Every vacation ship. Okay. Every place needs to have, a jar of nose teas around, because you know what? Nosebleeds happen all of the time. And it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. They need to be in every, hiker's backpack.
Yep.
Every place. And
well, I had some medics with the military buy them and keep them in their backpacks when they were traveling with troops.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense. Even, even the soldiers need to have a couple of them stuck in the side pocket of their packs, or even in their pocket. You could put them in your wallet. They're small.
Yep.
They're easy to carry. And, you pull it out of your wallet and you're done. That's it. It's, nosebleed over.
Yep. And I think, like you said, with so many nosebleeds happening in the United States and abroad, and the 60 million number that you mentioned, that's not the same 60 million every year either.
Right.
That's a rotating thing, because some people may experience them, once a year. Some may get, 2 or 3 a year. Some may not get one, but every 5 years. So there are a lot of nosebleeds that take place. And I've done my research, and this is a huge invention, and I'm hoping that it will help a lot of people because people need help in that area.
There, but if you take, that number in the US and you multiply it around the world, you're talking billions of nosebleeds
Yes.
around the world. And so it has got an international impact on the way folks get treated for something as simple as a nosebleed. And when you really think about it, how many Kleenexes and other things get shoved up the nose. This is so much, it's easier, it's cleaner, it's faster, it's healthier, because now you are actually stopping the blood from flowing. When you shove something up your nose, you're just sucking up the blood.
Yeah, I liken it unto how that people will put a tourniquet on, a wound to stop the bleeding. And that's similar in the way the nose T stops the blood flow from the Little's area and the Palantine artery to the nose. It acts as a tourniquet. You can't go in there and tie anything off. So the nose T puts pressure on it and basically pinches it to a point somehow that it just shuts the flow off. And I've even called it the tourniquet for the nosebleed or Band-Aid for the nosebleed, but I don't know if that would work in marketing, but that's just kind of some of the things we tossed around because it acts just like that.
Well, if you kind of think about it, the nose tourniquet, the nose T, maybe you
Yeah,
were already there. You just didn't know it.
I didn't. I didn't even make that connection. T's for Tony. No, no, I'm just
Oh,
kidding. T is the shape.
I know the T is the shape. Yes, I did. But hey, you were going down the tourniquet line. I figured I might as well grab that T and do something with it, right?
Yeah, well, let me tell you some of the horror stories that I've heard over the years with nosebleeds. A lot of people wind up at the emergency room with a nosebleed that can't be stopped with the conventional ways because they're trying to absorb the blood and it's not stopping. So they run to the emergency room, sometimes sitting for hours. They're out there treating them and the blood everywhere. And if emergency room and these emergency clinics would, get on board with this, they could literally stop that nosebleed. If it's an arterial nosebleed, they could stop that nosebleed in a matter of seconds and send that patient on home. And they would be gone and they'd be waiting on the next patient instead of focusing on one for hours and hours and hours. And so, that's another reason why the hospitals and the med clinics need to get on board because and I even told one time, I said, you're going to make the same money whether you stop the nosebleed in, matter of seconds or whether you take 4 hours, you're going to make the same money. I'm just helping you make money faster.
There you go. Well, and it's, now you've saved the cleanup time because, blood is yucky. It gets all over the place. Somebody's in a waiting room or, an ambulance and it's like, here, mister, stick this right up under your lip. And by the time they get to the hospital, it's done.
Yeah.
That's great. And so there's not, the mess to clean up, the blood all over the place, and my sister used to have nosebleeds. Terrible. I'd wake up in the, middle of the night and the pillow was all wet and squishy.
Yeah.
She's had a nosebleed, didn't even know it.
Mm.
And, so there's so many people that, those things will happen to them. And, not just the fact that it's, coming out of the body, but your body doesn't like losing blood.
No, no. And when, somebody has a disease in their blood, this can even be deadly and dangerous to other people. So it's important that it stops and stops fast.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am really glad that we are able to help get it out there, let more people know about the NoseT and that it's available. It is available on the website, correct? So anybody that wants to go and get some, they can go to your website, thenoset.com, and be able to place an order. And, they're easy to use. It works fast. And you know what? Every mother in America needs to have these in her purse. I know my daughter carries them in her purse. She carries them in the car. She goes to soccer practice with them. And the one time she was at soccer and she didn't have one in her purse yet. And she goes, I can't believe I don't even have the NoseT in my purse. Every mother carries them in her purse, her wallet, every dad going to every game, every school, every nurse, every ER, emergency responder, everybody, firemen, policemen. It's amazing how often we think about these EMT people and first responders, are soldiers. Holy, this doesn't end, Tony.
Yes. And I'm excited to have you guys as part of this program and helping me get the word out.
So we are just, please just punch. and to be able to help you and get it out there. It's really a great way to have an impact on everyone's life and encourage everybody out there. You know what? Everybody can be an inventor, and you never know when someone is going to say, "Oh, this is how you do that," and you're thinking, "Okay, wow, I can do that." And the
Well,
next,
I can actually assist in the process now that I've been through it. If somebody is looking, because that's one of the things I want to do is go into counseling, because I know how difficult it was to find somebody to talk to that you could trust that wouldn't steal it. Because I had an invention stolen when I was 19 years old, and I invented the chip clip, which is where that little clip that you stick on potato chip bags. Actually, when I was 19 years old, invented that, took some drawings to a guy, and he quit the company that I worked for. There was no cell phones, and I didn't know how to get in touch with him. And 6 months later, it's on the shelf at Kroger's. I'm like, that joker, he stole my idea. But it happened. So I know, I've been there. And if somebody, wanted to reach out for counseling or help, I'd be willing to do that.
so, well, I think you just did. So anyway, Tony, thank you so much for being on today. And we are delighted to be able to help. And you know what? We'll have you back on again. You one funny guy.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Rita.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. We will be back next week with more stories on getting products from mind to market. We will have new inventors and industry experts. So join us and have a wonderful week.